Greetings. So I am doing this as a test for the new upcoming format for the Parinama daily practices, which will be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to 8:30. And the intention with this is to provide a practical, scheduled time commitment contained way to actually have a Parinama practice in the very practical sense. So if you enjoyed the freestyle readings, there are like 300 plus of them. They're in the lives, and you can watch them page by page. They're still in there, but this format is just going to be a lot more succinct. And I'm going to be doing preparation for them. And the intention is that we are going to be practicing Parinama from the standpoint of like, how do you bring it into your everyday life? And how do you bring it into your everyday life is at the foundation of TPM. We have the cognitive aspect, like, so we're learning things in terms of like contemplating and understanding them consciously, which is so if we're looking at our brain, is we're talking about the prefrontal cortex, which is like the last to develop, but like our cognitive function, our executive function. So we're addressing things by understanding them cognitively. And then we're rolling it back in with a reframe into making it a little bit more emotional and engaging this kind of like more like center mid aspect of our brain, and then doing an exercise to like yoke it all in with a reflex. And one of the things about most methodologies, self-help, whatever, is that there's a real strong emphasis on one aspect of this. So you'll either be reading a book and like learning about like like anything. This is not a diss track on self-help, but it's just pointing out why things don't tend to stick even when we're doing them with, like, full intent. So, it's like if you're reading a book about how to, like, form habits or even like spiritual contemplation, meditation, whatever, there's an aspect in terms of like the behavior change, but also in terms of deeper transformational work, which is like the like heady, expansive aspect, and also the like field of contemplation and like the intellect, and then like how it feels and inspecting the feelings that we have associated with it, and coming to like surface that a bit more consciously. And as we get into a Parinama practice, we build tools around that. And then reflex, which is like the unconscious aspect, which is just where it's in physical movement. And so we're bringing in a physical practice to yoke it all together and actually access and activate greater capability and greater life and like enlivenedness about the experience of being alive. And so I think the thing for starting, so in the Parinama for Beginners class, one of the things that we did was we talked about like, why would you do this practice? Like, why would you undertake something that is, like, it's a textbook. And I guess maybe I'll like go to I can take it off. It's a textbook. It's a massive book, and I think one of the things is probably like the most universal response to the book itself is that is like kind of a shock and awe thing. And one of the central tenets, which I'll talk about today, is this kind of is really that there's nothing wrong with you, and that there's nothing that needs to be like fixed. And it's interesting. It's kind of like counterintuitive that this is a book that tends to spark almost the exact opposite response from people, because it's like, oh my God, there's this much to do, or just kind of, yeah, I mean, it's just overwhelmed. I haven't encountered anyone who has like found this book to be like sort of accessible. Like nobody. I mean, we're talking about people who are like teaching at MIT and Harvard and and other measures of intellect who have found this incredibly overwhelming and overstimulating and activating. So we break this into piece by piece by piece, and we do this together in a process that, quite frankly, takes like over a year. So if I've said that and it's like, oh my God, it's like over a year. But the thing is, we're addressing this bit by bit, and if you were to experience the transformation rapidly, it's super disruptive. So what we're doing is we're toning our nervous system little by little to achieve and get to a level of like an enlivened way of living where we're free to live outside of chronic hypervigilance. We're free to live at like with greater levels of feeling without being absorbed by them. We're more powerful. We feel more confident in our ability to express our individuality. Our worthiness is like, the self-loathing and the sense of low self-worth is like negated, minimized, whatever, and we're experiencing what it feels like to like have genuine, naturally emanating positive regard for ourselves, the ability to speak and create with authenticity and integrity, the ability to be perceptive and trust your intuition and to be able to see things in a way that allows you to have clarity in ways that, for folks who feel overwhelmed or like everything's sort of like fuzzy and kind of like too much, or I can't see clearly, it's like breaking through that and finally getting to a point of a greater level of just being able to contemplate things, understand things, be able to like exist. Like it's increasing it. Honestly, I would just call it increasing intellect. So the first thing for this is, so we're looking here at this yoke where we have the like, I wonder, I make it like semi-transparent? Nope. Nope. Is it? That's no. I guess I just have to be like there. So once again, we're yoking all of the components of our nervous system, and there's plenty of facets about the Parinama method that we discuss as we go on. But on a day-to-day functionality, we are only addressing things that have this aspect of having a practical application with the intent of making you feel more free, feel more optimized, feel more hopeful, and understand that there's a path forward to be able to access and achieve what is like the potentiality of your fulfilled existence. That's actually probably a really like good way to put it. So to start out with this, I think a good place to start is like, why would you do this? Like, why would anybody do this? Why would anybody undertake this? And so I want to just walk through a simple exercise. It's probably going to take about a minute, 2 minutes, but I want to prompt you to just take a little space right now, wherever you are, wherever you're watching this. If you're in your house, if you're like, like listening to this, in your commute, whatever, is to just take a moment and just, make sure that you can actually with like kind of draw your senses inward to a certain extent, bring some attention to your physical body, because we're going to connect in with this a little bit, and we're going to explore. This is really all about, okay, what is it that we're trying to do? And the first thing is I want to bring attention to like your physicality of like your connection with your seat, your feet, like are they on the ground, like to bring them onto the ground, to like bring yourself into some consciousness about all the places where your body is in contact with like, it's in contact basically. And to consider, like, so when we're thinking about why we're, into like why we're doing this, we're going to create a vision here. And in this vision, I want to emphasize physicality. And so think about now, imagine yourself in how your body feels, like how you want your body to feel. So consider, like, what does it feel like? So what are the feelings that exist in it right now? that it's kind of like that you'd be either free from or be able to really just comfortably cohabitate with the levels of discomfort, or to be free from it and to like feel like, how does it feel? And to just imagine that into your body right now to the greatest extent of your ability. Now, if you can close your eyes, I want you to think about where your body is. Like, what is the home where you feel just the most safe, the most at peace, the most at rest, where your body feels good? And just take a look around. Notice like where is this? Are there trees outside? Is there ocean? Are you in a city? What does the space feel like? What's the style of it? Is it modern? Is it eclectic? Is it cozy? Is it minimalist? And where are you sitting? Are you sitting on a couch? Are you sitting at a kitchen table? Are you sitting upright in bed with a book in your lap next to a window? And just breathe in for a moment and just find yourself in this place and realize that you're not going to be able to color in every single aspect of it, but that you can feel yourself in a place that is really ideal and that your body in this space feels good. And by good, I mean that you are at peace with the sensation of it. So it doesn't mean necessarily that there's no sensation or just feels like happy. It's like maybe part of this is that you have a different relationship with discomfort, and it doesn't really bother you that much, that you can like actually be curious and present with yourself as you're uncomfortable. Now, in this space, I want you to bring some attention to how you feel. And even in this version of life, I want to contemplate like having bigger feelings and not being absorbed by them, being able to feel greater feelings. Maybe this is having the ability to not get as upset about things. And as by not getting upset, to be able to have tools to respect your emotions, to have larger emotions, but not let them be like runaway trains, or to even express yourself, to be able to like feel freely, to enjoy things without guilt, to imagine being able to just absorb yourself in pleasure without the sensibility of like, I shouldn't be doing this, or there's something else I'm supposed to be doing. To be able to be free in that sense and understand that the role of pleasure is being timeless. And then also for feelings to be able to have negative feelings and to be able to express them in a way that doesn't make you feel like you're no longer safe. So spend just a moment here, just contemplating what it feels like to have a greater capacity for feeling in whatever direction is important to you, whatever you wish you could do, whatever you wish you could express, could feel. Like, what would that feel like? And now as we move into, like, what are you doing in this version that's really satisfying? And how are you feeling? And how is it aligning with your integrity? How is this connecting with you being truly authentic in terms of what aligns with who you are? So what do you do? This is work, how you spend your day. Are you, are you running a farm? Are you starting a business? Are you writing a book? Are you a, group exercise teacher? Do you spend your day looking after children and, managing a home, keeping it beautiful and attending to children? Are you running a massive company? Are you like, so we're really moving into what is the doing part of your life, and how is it aligning with you expressing yourself with confidence and integrity? And that can be a quiet confidence. It can be whatever comes naturally as far as what emanates from you. So what do you do? So spend just a moment really absorbing into the doing part of this aspect of your life. What do you do? And if it's coming up blank, if you can't really think of anything, you're like, well, I'd like to do this. It's just lean into that as much as you can without a notion of what the practicality of it is. So try to stay away from like, yeah, but I couldn't make a living off this. In this version, we're not entering into this notion of the practicality. We're because that will come. We're going to get to that. But what we're getting into is like, what does this ideal state actually feel like? Sorry, that's my housekeeper out there with the leaf blower, if you can hear that. Um, Now, once we're in this doing, so it's almost like scan back. It's like your body, your habitat, your feelings, what you're doing, how that aligns with your integrity and who you truly like can feel that you are in authenticity. And now, who are you surrounded by? Who is around you? Who are the people you work with? Who are the people you spend your day with? Is it your children? Is it your family? Is it a partner? Who are the people you work with? And what does it feel like to work with them? How does it feel? I want to even seed in a notion that your sense of self-regard exists without validation. You just feel your relationship with yourself. It just feels good to be you in any state that you're at. And now it's imagining in that state, who are you surrounded by? Who are the people? I want you to have some sort of notions of people sort of like walking through and around you and with you. And who are these people? And why do they feel so good to be with? Even thinking about, okay, now with increased emotional capacity, it's like, how are we handling conflicts? When things go, when we have different visions for things with these people, like how are we actually interacting with them, not just in the most optimal positive, but we're also thinking about how do we interact with them in ways when things become challenging. And what does it feel like to actually have someone and have a conflict arise, and then also be able to respect how they feel while also advocating for yourself in a way that is fair and effective? What does it feel like to compromise in a way that doesn't feel like there's part of you that's being undermined or like overtaken? So in relationships where there is give and take and exchange and presence and devotion. So take a breath into that and just even for a moment feel like, do you feel that? Like, where would you feel that? How would that feel in your body? Now, as we continue in this contemplation, now think about what it feels like to be able to create, to be able to speak your truth, to be able to express yourself. Maybe you're drawing, maybe you're writing, maybe you're speaking, maybe you are showing yourself in a way that is truly aligned with your integrity. So your integrity has made it easy for you to speak in a way that is in alignment with who you are, where your concessions in terms of pleasing other people are either diminished or dissolved, and you're respectfully, to the respect that's merited, offering up yourself and your perspective and how you see the world as a gift, as an offering, as an expression that relieves yourself of the sense of being suppressed or held back or tight, that you can freely express yourself and that other people are responding to that. And even contemplate, how does that expression have, like, how is that related to the feeling of being connected with these people in terms of this vision of being surrounded by the people that are really ideal in this vision of this like ideal, this kind of like optimal state of being. Now move into some more, I guess what I'd call etheric, which is like contemplate your intuition, trusting your intuition, allowing yourself to see, allowing yourself to like be able to have ideas. When ideas, this is Margarita's leaf blowing right outside my window, so I apologize if that sound is interfering with this. But now imagine that you have ideas and that you don't suppress ideas as soon as they arise by thinking, oh, that's stupid. Like, just you allow them to flourish. You allow your dreams to be able to like show you insights. You allow yourself to be able to see people and trust your like what arises, but that you also introduce some discernment. So like the idea that it's like, what does it feel like to see things and allow yourself to see them clearly, yet also filter yourself to understand, to be able to have a comfortable enough relationship with your perception that you can question it. And you can wonder, is this bias or is this intuition? And explore that. And then above this, and as the last contemplation, is to imagine having a greater processing power, greater capability to learn new things, a greater capability to like comprehend and intake new information, the ability to see more sides than just the side that you're representing and feels really important to ourselves. So just essentially what we're talking about is increasing intellectual capacity and what that feels like. So as we just walk back through, it's like where you physically exist, how that feels, what you're doing within integrity and authenticity, what it feels like to be in communion and community and in connection with others, that feels very uplifting and validating, what it feels like for that relationship with yourself to actually be the impetus, or the like, was it the like core of what it feels like to be connecting with people, that your own connection with yourself is extraordinary. And then to be creating with authenticity, to be visualizing, to be visionary, to be perceptive in new ways and more extraordinary ways, and to be able to comprehend and contemplate and understand at a more expanded like level. And so with that exercise, that's the prompt of what is it like, why are we doing this? And I want to encourage you to think into that and imagine, what if it's even better than that? What if what I can contemplate as far as what's possible is greater than what I have access to right now? What if my adaptations and the patterning of my life has actually even restricted my ability to be able to understand what my capability is? And so it's like that you've reached the limits of what is perceivable right now. But I want to introduce the idea that it's like there's a greater capability and there's a greater aliveness in this. So how do we do this is we're uniting cognition, which is here the executive function, which is the part of our brain and nervous system that is actually develops last at the end of our childhood, late, or like in early adulthood. And then we're also looking at the emotional aspect of ourselves, of our feeling self, which is an important part of who and what we are because it actually directs so much of what our experience is, and our capacity to feel is so essential for our capacity in every aspect of being alive. Forget all the stigma about it. It's actually, as has been said, that it's like we feel something and then we rationalize it. And then we're talking about the unconscious level, which is our reflex, which is where we integrate somatic and physical exercises. So we are yoking together the physicality, the emotion, and the cognition. And that's what makes Parinama method so effective. So for the session, for the first session of Parinama, we're just going to talk through very quickly the opener of what we start out with, which is really about being on your own side. So, one thing that becomes revealed relatively early in a Parinama practice is the fact that we have this inner conflict where we think where we tend to behave with a type of vigilance, like we're fighting an aspect of ourselves that can't be trusted, that shame keeps us from becoming like monstrous, that fear keeps us from making like ridiculous mistakes and being really chaotic, and that just a fundamental sort of like distrust in our natural inclinations. So the first like stop in the sort of like Parinama journey has to do with these initial like kind of notions, I guess. And the first being the Hubert Selby, who is the Requiem for a Dream and Last Exit to Brooklyn, edgy, is that sometimes we have the absolute certainty there's something inside us that's so hideous and monstrous that if we ever search it out, we won't be able to stand looking at it. But it's when we're willing to come face to face with the demon that we face the angel. And the initial reading here, that where when we get to the beginning of chapter 1 here, we have the Thomas Merton quote, which is, "Finally, I'm coming to the conclusion that my highest ambition is to be what I already am, that I will never fulfill my obligation to surpass myself unless I first accept myself. And if I accept myself fully in the right way, I will already have surpassed myself." So to just take like a quick little breather here. Quick little breather. And just kind of absorb the exercise that we've done today. We've been a little bit this is sort of like a bit out of order, I guess I would say. This is like starting with the exercise. So maybe it's starting with the exercise and then doing a reframe and then the concept. So that's something that's kind of an interesting thing to consider. So as an orientation too, I want, especially as we're starting at the top of the book, I want to point out that the table of contents is like a navigation guide for the book itself, being able to use it as an operational text that a user's guide where you're the person at the wheel. And that is that the book is in 3 parts, and you'll see here part 1, part 2, and then part 3 here, down, at the end. And I'm not gonna spend a lot of time talking about this today because so much time went into the exercise. But the function of the book is basically, I want to talk specifically about part 2, which is that we look at for each aspect of the nervous system, we're looking at the initial development of a specific facet of our nervous system. And then we're looking at the basics, the themes. So we're coming to learn what the actual like hub is. And then we're looking at the interruptions and stressors. So we're coming to understand the factors that impact the development of the hub. And then we come to know the adaptations and holding patterns. So how we adapt. This has to do with how do we adapt to the interruptions and stressors that are happening when a specific aspect of our nervous system is being formed. So more on that later. And then we do exercises and techniques to be able to shape, manage, create more capacity, create more dynamism into a given hub, and to be able to have tools so that on an ongoing practice, we can actually be able to actually self-regulate ourselves and know how to do it and how to work with that. So I don't think I'm going to talk about the table of contents when I do this is as a initial session. Um, I think that will live here. I think that one of the things that I'm thinking about, and if you have any thoughts on this, they're certainly welcome. I think it's kind of like for the first section of this, it's really, I think the why do we do this is kind of important. And to just really introduce how we're approaching this, which is through unifying the different aspects of ourselves. So bringing in the physicality, bringing in the feeling, and then bringing in the like logical, contemplative notion of this. And when we bring that together, there isn't any aspect of our nervous system that sort of acts up like a wonky wheel on a shopping cart that tries to overcorrect and become self-sabotage, so to speak, is that everybody is kind of included so that we are, yeah. So we're kind of synchronized and we bring everything back together in with the intent of really our elevation, our activation, and elevation and activation. I'm just going to call it that. Okay. So that's it for this. I got to do my experiment here with the Prezi, which is this tool, and playing around with some different stuff here. So this is my tester. I might do a couple more of these, just talking through this before I start on the 12th, just to get it's interesting because I'm finding that getting into operating off a format, I have to figure out what the format is that actually works, works so this flows well, and then just get a little bit more practice running it so that it just has a little bit more of a rhythm. So, maybe some of that involves outlining the structure ahead of time of this is what we're going to do. And having that be in an order that, I almost feel like the exercise is the way to go. So it's it is actually working this way. You're starting up here and then working into the feeling and then the contemplation of it. And also I think it's significantly more compelling to start by actually doing something than just listening. Yeah. And I want to for the emotion part, I want to talk about reframing things. So instead of talking about okay, here's the kind of the sort of patterned notion on things, and then talk about sort of here's another take on this. So yeah, anyhow, thank you for watching. I really appreciate you. And here's to a new era of this, and and getting better at this. Cheers to that. All right. See you next time. Bye.